Would you be an MP in today's day and age without security? I've got to be honest with you, I would not. Tom Hewitt, your thoughts?
Well, Michelle, like me, you've stood in a parliamentary election. I've also been an elected councillor, so you've got direct experience. You know what it's like. And
it was awful.
You know, it was indeed, and not least that winter election in 2019. But I think, you know, anyone who's stood for elected office knows that you are putting yourself at risk, not just from, you know, cranks who will come up to you in the public, but often threats. You know, I mean, this isn't unusual for elected representatives to get death threats. I've had one of those when I was a Labour councillor. And of course, you never quite know whether to take it seriously or not when something like that arrives in the post. But what I do really think needs to happen now is we see a step change in the environment around MPs, their own personal safety and security, but also, of course, we need a change in our whole kind of national discourse and need to detoxify where it's got to in recent months. So, you know, I would support, actually, the proposal that MPs have a kind of equivalent of a close protection officer when they're out and about doing their public duties.
Yeah, and John, what would that... I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you agree with that sentiment? Do you think that MPs should have protection?
Yes, absolutely. It seems ludicrous that they shouldn't. I mean, one of the people
For everything or just the constant...
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, they should have, and at their surgery, it would not be very difficult to have a protection person. It doesn't have to be the police. That can be a bit intimidating to the constituent who's trying to have a private conversation with his or her MP. But there should be a security person there, wherever it might be, who is taught how to manage close security. When I was Gorbachev's promoter, when he left power, he wouldn't move. I know it's Gorbachev, but he wouldn't move without a team of people around him. Now, scale that down. Here's a silly thought. The police are far too busy to jump on all this all the time. And also, it's difficult for the MP out of that environment just walking around their constituency. So they're at risk at all times. So one of the things that may just work, for 5 years I was chair of British Taekwondo. And I spent a lot of time in the martial arts world, not just with Taekwondo practitioners, but with judo practitioners and kickboxing practitioners. These are very dedicated sports people who have marshalled their art and know how to use it. It would not be that difficult, and knowing the community as I do, it would absolutely be a delight and pleasure for them to be able to offer some of their membership to public service, to be trained by the close protection forces that exist both in the police and in the professional security business. Because I hear today that the Bouncers Society, or whatever they're called, the Big Bounce, there's a shortage of them as well. So I absolutely believe that the martial arts community could help here by being a close protection without being intrusive, and you would have a big supply of professional people who with a professional mindset, and that would help a lot.
But quite frankly, Francis, I'd want them to be intrusive. I want massive, barely bodyguards around me if I was going to interact with the public as an MP, almost as a deterrent, if nothing else.
I find this very worrying, Michelle, because what happened to Sir David was awful, awful, dreadful. What happened to Joe Cox was awful as well. But what we can't do is have another disconnect between our politicians and the ordinary member of the public. The problem is that currently, in our political system, we don't have a lot of faith anymore in our politicians. We don't have a lot of faith in our political system. We don't feel that our politicians are serving us. We feel that it's us and them. And if we continue to have further distance between the politicians and the member of the public, I'm worried that eventually we're just not going to have a political system that is fit for purpose, where people are so disengaged, where people are so disenfranchised, that they're just not going to feel part of that system anymore. Now, obviously, that means that we do need to have protection for MPs, but it can't be like they're just it's like a meet and greet of a pop star where they're flanked by 6 or 7 bodyguards or bouncers.